Okay, we're back from the break, and I don't know if Steve's still on the phone, but at any rate, political issues as well as everything else, I think, I don't know why people spend as much money as they do. There's obviously some secondary gain. Maybe it's just their ego that allows them to, want to run for a political office, maybe make a change. The other thing is you have political action committees and political people that put a lot of money through donations behind the candidate that they want. So, it's kind of unfortunate that does exist, but I'll just say get out and do your thing, vote, talk to people, educate them, about your views, and hopefully it all works out in the end. I believe politicians should have one term. I don't believe they should have multiple terms. I had this discussion with somebody one time, and they said, but they never get anything done. And I said, exactly. I don't want them to do anything. If there's a crisis, they can all get together and solve it. But in lack of the fact that there's no crisis, they can just 1 year, you get an entrenched policy.
Yeah, I kind of agree. It's just if you want, just have the viewers start following the money. I mean, there's a place you can go, and now the sheriff. I know I'd want to be a sheriff. Now, the sheriff's job pays $100,000 a year. Of course, we'd want to be a sheriff.
Right.
But some of these jobs, like especially this District 36, it pays $10,000. I mean, like I said, I could work at your office for 2 days a week, or work Walmart and make more than that. I mean,
it's probably not about that.
Terrible. But I'll free the lineup and
yeah.
I'd like to hear what other people have to say.
Yeah, it's probably not about the money. It's more about the ego. But we see that all the time. Anyway, I would just encourage people again to educate themselves and vote for the way you want to, and it is your right, and it is one of those things that you have to do as a citizen. If you don't, I think it's a mistake. Okay, so I think we were talking about cigarette smoking, pipe, and COPD, and any other topic that people want to talk about. I bring that up because it is we've had this issue with the allergies have been really interesting this year. I normally have been an allergy sufferer. This year has been very difficult for me with regards to allergies. I think it's difficult for a lot of people. And I'm not sure exactly what has bloomed or what has changed in the environment, but something has. Maybe it's more dust. They say it's more dust and more pollen. Could very well be. When you move to the desert, things are not supposed to grow here. And I think that it's nice to have a little plot of grass, but I think it's better to have non-grass. I think it's better to have fake grass and have a little bit of shrubbery, but not go to great lengths. So Amy's back on the phone. Amy?
This feedback is horrible. I'm going to hang up again because I can't understand a word you're saying to me.
What was that?
Sorry.
Okay. Well, one thing I did bring up is Amy did have a good point about whooping cough. So if you haven't had that re-immunization for diphtheria and pertussis, I would think about going down to your local pharmacy and getting that done. I think that's very important. In fact, there was an outbreak in Beatty, and I had a patient the other day asking about that, and then the health nurse was up there, and they were doing an immunization clinic for that. So, is Amy back on the phone? No, Amy's no longer on the phone. So, again, immunizations are one of those things that's a personal issue. I know there are people that believe autism and immunizations are linked together. I don't claim to know anything about that. I think people have done a lot of research, and there's also people that have done research in the opposite way. I don't know how we do a controlled study in population and regression studies to figure that out. But if they ever do, it would be nice. I think they now make vaccines that don't have mercury in them. They make vaccines that are a lot safer than they have been, but some people you can't change their minds on how they view about that. I do think it's quite interesting. I know they're using an Ebola vaccine, but I don't know the effectiveness of it. And I think that it would be very important that they figure that one out. As a virus, I think that is a very, very, very dangerous virus. It is highly infectious, meaning you have to have a certain viral load in order to attain an infection from a virus. This happens a lot with, let's say, hepatitis. In the early stages of someone getting infected with hepatitis B, their body has not fought that off. So their viral load, meaning the amount of virus in their blood, is extremely high. So therefore, transmission of body fluid carries a lot of viruses. So the chance of inoculating someone with that virus becomes much greater. Then the late stages of the disease, when the body has pretty much resolved a lot of the viruses, and secondary, their viral titers are low, and they're very unlikely to shed the disease. So this is the inherent danger of, like, pertussis, which is really a different type of, it's a bacterial thing. But what I'm trying to say is that in the early stages of a disease, before your body can fight it off, you're shedding it. You're shedding virus, you're coughing, you're sneezing, you're doing those things that will allow it to spread amongst people that you come in contact with. Late in the stage of the diseases, the viral titers go extremely low. So you have to actually have the receptors for the virus. If you don't have a receptor, it cannot get into your tissues, and therefore you will not be able to get infected. Ebola, on the other hand, one virus particle, one bacteria, one virus particle can infect your body, and that is scary. And that's why you see them in the suits and you do all the other stuff. One virus particle. Now, in Africa, when someone that got Ebola and dies, guess what? The family is all around the body of the dead person. That person, when they die from Ebola, they basically are a virus bomb. They shed virus everywhere, through every orifice in their body. Blood comes out. It's a very grotesque death, but it's teeming with virus particles. And so that's why it goes on. Before it could get out of the small communities, it would literally wipe out the entire village, because everybody would be around the person who was infected, and it would just go back into remission. The source or the vector of the virus, being human, would vanish, and that would be the end of the Ebola virus. So that's why I think it's so important to get a vaccine that works for that particular virus particle. I hope it comes into fruition. I don't know, but they had another second outbreak in Africa, so I don't know where that particular part is. One of the things I do find that's very interesting is that when you get these strange new illnesses that come up, like Middle Eastern respiratory, MERS, Middle Eastern respiratory distress syndrome, when they actually get the virus and they do the genome on it, they can actually tell the vectors that it's been to, where it came from. Like, it was bat, it was transmitted from bat to this animal, and they can actually see all the genetic material that's in there. It's kind of interesting. I don't think it really helps to figure it out, but it is part of what we now are able to do with genetic code, which we weren't able to do previously. And so it helps us, but it doesn't necessarily help us to find a vaccine, but it helps us find where it came from. So speaking of allergies, we get a lot of allergies here in this room. But I think dust is a big factor here, and I suggest to people that they get if you do suffer from allergies, think about changing your filters regularly. Maybe even think about getting a HEPA filter in your house. Those can be very helpful, especially if you have chronic obstructive pulmonary disease or you have any colds or chronic illnesses. They do run down your immune system when you have allergies and when you have sneezing and things of that nature. A lot of good products out there for it, but it doesn't cover everything. And allergy testing is available, allergy sensitization. Giving allergy shots are good for serious allergy sufferers, but those aren't, a little bit on the dangerous side. your antihistamines have a limited effectiveness, and on top of that, there are certain products like Singulair or Accolade which work in helping your immune system fight off the late phase of an allergic reaction. So you can take antihistamines when they stop working. It's because you've built up all these other products called leukotrienes, and these are products that also act like the same product that causes the allergic reaction. So it's very important that if you're still suffering, make sure that you get the right prescription so that you can get your allergies under control and hopefully preventing further problems with COPD, illnesses, heart disease, and other issues. So remember that call-in line. You can flash that back up so we can get some callers with some good topics. I know we've had Chuck. I don't know if you're out there watching. You know, if you got something you want to talk about, please call in. Anything else? I mean, I could sit here and talk about a million other things all night long, but it's certainly useful if you guys call in and ask a question. I know Louis called in one time and asked about gout one time, and I find gout is a very interesting illness. I've seen it come up periodically here and there. It seems to be one of those illnesses that we see, you know, late in life, but it is a arthritic condition. It inflames usually occurs in the joints. It's not a chronic condition. It's exacerbated by the desert because we live in a very arid environment, and so when you get dehydrated, which you do very easily, especially with the sun and the heat, then you tend to have more gouty outbreaks, especially with eating. So what ends up happening is gout is a product of uric acid formation. So when your body has uric acid crystals that form in a joint, the white blood cells go in there to try and destroy it. It's like someone just magically, like Scotty, beamed a little crystal into your joint, and it's not supposed to be there. So we're going to go to break, and I'll bring up that topic a little bit later. Thank you.